Hello, welcome back to Seilstad Sister Storytime. I loved seeing all your pictures on Facebook of your beautiful baby Moseses in the river and the sister Miriam. You guys are so creative, and it's great to see that you're putting all that extra time to work. Today we're going to be reading Gideon's Army. Here we are. It's one of my favorite stories, so I'm very excited to share with you today. There was a time when the people of Israel turned away from God to worship an idol named Baal. Because they no longer obeyed God, their lands were soon invaded by the cruel Midianites, who stole their animals and destroyed their crops. The Israelites became so afraid they fled their homes to hide and live in caves. After 7 years of living in fear, the Israelites begged God for help. God heard their pleas and sent an angel to a man named Gideon. Gideon had been secretly threshing grain out of sight of the Midianites when the angel appeared to say that God had chosen him to lead an army and rescue the people of Israel. But Gideon wanted proof that the angel was really sent from God. He left and returned with an offering of goat meat and bread and placed it on a rock near the angel. The angel touched the bread and meat with a stick he was holding. Fire shot out of the rock and instantly burned up the offering. Gideon knew that the angel was truly from God and began to have hope that the Israelites would soon live without fear of the Midianites. Then God told Gideon to destroy the altar of Baal and build an altar for him. That night, Gideon and 10 of his servants did as God asked. Armies of men came to join Gideon in his fight against the Midianites. But Gideon had doubts that he was the right man to lead. He asked God for a sign. In the morning, there was always dew on the grass. Gideon would know he was meant to lead if all the land was dry in the morning and only the wool of a sheep was wet. In the morning, Gideon found that it was so. All the land was dry, but from the wool Gideon squeezed a cupful of water. Still, Gideon was doubtful and wanted more proof, so he asked that the next morning all the land be wet and the wool be left dry. And so it was, for the next morning the land was wet with morning dew, but the wool remained dry. Gideon was ready. 32,000 men of Israel joined him for the battle. But God wanted Israel to understand that it was their belief in him that would help them defeat the Midianites, not the size of the army. He told Gideon there were too many men, so Gideon told the men that whoever among them was afraid should leave. 10,000 men remained. Again, God told them there were too many. He instructed Gideon to take the men to the river for a drink. Some men carelessly knelt down to drink from the river with their mouths, while the others stayed alert, watching for enemies as they brought the water to their mouths. It was these men that remained with Gideon to fight for the Midianites. That night, Gideon and his army of only 300 surrounded the Midianite camp as they slept. Each of Gideon's men carried a trumpet and a clay jar with a torch inside. On Gideon's signal, the men blew their trumpets and broke the jars they were carrying. The torches were lit and the trumpets sounded again. It was a terrifying sound, and fearing that they had been attacked by a mighty army, the Midianites fled into the night. Many tried to escape to the Jordan River, but the Israelite soldiers were waiting to ambush them. The Midianites were defeated. With faith in God, Gideon's small army had rescued all of Israel. They were saved from their enemies and lived in peace for many years. This week, I would love to see pictures of you shouting your trumpets as loud as you can and breaking fake jars onto the ground. Don't break your mom's real ones. So I'd love to see some pictures of you guys sharing in Gideon's triumphant battle and excitement to share God with everyone.